The alarms screamed through Arcturus Station like dying animals. Red emergency lights painted the metal corridors in blood-colored shadows. Outside the thick windows, space was full of death. 47 Vreth warships surrounded the station like wolves circling wounded prey. Their dark hulls absorbed the light from nearby stars, making them look like holes in reality itself. Every few seconds, green plasma bolts shot from their weapons, hammering against the station's shields. Each impact made the entire structure shake. Admiral Taeyang Shou stood in the command center, watching his fleet die. 23 ships had come to defend Arcturus Station. Now only 11 remained. The others were floating debris, their crews gone, their reactors cooling in the void. The Vreth were methodical killers. They never rushed. They just kept firing until nothing was left. Shield strength at 18%, someone called out. Taeyang didn't know who anymore. Half his staff was dead or wounded. The rest looked like ghosts, pale and shaking. 200,000 people lived on Arcturus Station. Civilians, soldiers, families, children. If the shields fell, they would all die. The Vreth didn't take prisoners. Everyone in the galaxy knew that. Any word from Coalition Command? Taeyang asked. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. Nothing, sir. They say reinforcements are 6 hours away. 6 hours. They had maybe 30 minutes before the shields collapsed completely. Taeyang looked at the tactical display. The Vreth ships were positioned perfectly, overlapping their fire, covering every angle. There was no way out. No clever trick that would save them, he thought about his daughter. She was on Earth, safe in humanity's solar system. He would never see her again. That hurt more than the thought of dying. Captain Dae-Won Kim sat in the commander's chair aboard the Indomitable, watching the same battle on his screens. But he was 3 light-years away, too far to help. The distress signal from Arcturus had reached him 15 minutes ago. Every second since then had felt like an hour. "Sir, we're still in the testing phase," Lieutenant Hannah Park said. She stood at the weapons station, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Command hasn't authorized combat operations." "I know," Dae-Won said. He was a tall man with gray starting to show in his black hair. He had been in the military for 20 years. Long enough to know when orders mattered and when they didn't. How long to reach Arcturus at maximum speed? Engineer Jiwoo Lee looked up from his station. His face was young, but his eyes were old. Building the Indomitable had aged him. 4 minutes if I push the drives past safety limits. Do it. "Sir, if command finds out," Hannah started. 200,000 people are about to die," Dae-Won interrupted. His voice was quiet but hard as steel. "I don't care what command thinks. I don't care about protocols. We're going." The crew was silent for a moment. Then Jiwoo's fingers flew across his console, spooling up the hyperspace drive. "We'll be ready in 60 seconds. The Indomitable was unlike any ship ever built. She was 3 kilometers long, covered in black armor that seemed to drink light. Inside her hull were weapons and systems that would terrify anyone who understood them. Humanity had spent 5 years building her in secret, hiding her from the galaxy, waiting for the right moment. This wasn't the right moment. But it was the necessary one. 30 seconds to jump, Wu called out. Dae-Won opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands battle stations. We're jumping into a hot zone. 47 enemy warships. I won't lie to you. This could go badly, but those people at Arcturus need us. Humanity doesn't abandon its allies." He closed the channel. Hannah looked at him. "We've never fired the main guns in actual combat." "Then today we find out if they work," Dae-Won said. "Lock in targeting solutions for the nearest enemy ships. The moment we arrive, I want to send a message." "What kind of message?" Hannah asked. Dae-Won smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "The kind that makes them regret coming here." At Arcturus Station, the situation was getting worse. 2 more coalition ships exploded, their reactors going critical, painting space with brief new suns. The Vreth tightened their formation, moving closer to the station. "Shields at 12%, the voice called again. Taeyang could hear people crying in the background. Someone was praying in the clef language, a clicking, chittering sound. He had fought in 17 battles during this war. He had always found a way to win or at least survive. But this time there was nothing he could do. No brilliant tactic. No last-minute rescue. Just math and physics and the cold reality that his ships were outgunned. "It's been an honor serving with you all," he said quietly. Then space ripped open at the edge of the battle. A tear in reality, blue-white light spilling out like a wound in the universe. Something massive was coming through. The hyperspace window expanded, growing larger and larger. The Indomitable emerged from hyperspace like a knife from darkness. She was enormous, dwarfing every other ship in the system. Her black hull reflected nothing. Her running lights were the red of fresh blood, every sensor in the battle locked onto her. Coalition ships. Vreth warships. The station itself. Everyone stopped firing for a moment, staring at this new arrival. "What is that?" Someone whispered in Taeyang's command center. The Indomitable hung in space, silent and waiting. Inside, Day One looked at the tactical display. 47 Vreth ships. A dying station. His allies barely holding on? "Hannah," he said softly. "Let's show them what humanity can do." War Master Krelther studied the new arrival on his command screen. The Vreth were a species that had conquered 40 systems through patience and overwhelming firepower. They did not fear easily. But something about this dark ship made his secondary heart beat faster. "Identification?" he demanded. His voice was a deep rumble that vibrated through his flagship's bridge. "Human vessel," his sensor officer reported. "Unknown class." "Energy readings are incorrect, sir. The power output doesn't match anything in our database." Krelther's face split into what his species considered a smile. Humans, the newest members of the coalition. They had small ships, limited technology, and no real military power. One ship wouldn't change anything. "Send 5 cruisers to destroy it," he ordered. "Then resume bombardment of the station." 5 Vreth heavy cruisers broke formation and accelerated toward the Indomitable. Each was 300 meters long, armed with plasma cannons that could melt through standard coalition armor in seconds. They moved in a precise pattern, a hunting formation they had used 1,000 times before on the Indomitable's bridge. Lieutenant Hannah watched the approaching ships. Her console was alive with data, numbers flowing faster than normal human eyes could track. But Hannah had neural implants that let her process information at computer speeds. 5 heavy cruisers inbound, she reported. Standard Vreth attack formation. They're launching plasma torpedoes. Point defense active? Day One asked calmly. He sat in his chair like he was waiting for tea, not facing 5 warships designed to kill. All systems online, Hannah confirmed. Permission to engage? Granted. The Vreth plasma torpedoes came in fast, 30 of them, each carrying enough energy to crack a moon. They closed to within 1,000 meters of the Indomitable, then the human ship's point defense systems activated. Hundreds of small turrets emerged from the black hull. They fired laser pulses so fast they looked like solid beams of light. Every single torpedo exploded before reaching the Indomitable. The space around her lit up with secondary explosions. On Arcturus station, people gasped. Admiral Taeyang leaned forward, hardly breathing. No ship in the coalition fleet could stop that many torpedoes. No ship could even try. What kind of point defense is that? Someone whispered. Commander Byung-ho Shin stood behind Day One's chair, watching the tactical display. He was a former Marine, broad-shouldered and scarred from a dozen ground battles. He understood violence in a way most spaceship officers never would. They're going to get close now, he said. Try to use their main guns? I'm counting on it, Day One replied. The 5 Vreth cruisers closed in, their captains confident. Plasma torpedoes were just the opening. The real killing happened at close range, where their heavy cannons could tear ships apart. They reached weapons range. All 5 opened fire simultaneously. Green energy beams lanced through space, converging on the Indomitable. The human ship's shields flared brilliant blue. The Vreth weapons hit them and simply stopped, absorbed completely. Not even a flicker? The shields didn't weaken. They didn't strain. They just stood there, immovable. Impossible, Crowther said, watching from his flagship. Nothing can absorb that much energy. Sir, the human ship is moving, his sensor officer said. There was fear in his voice now. The Indomitable accelerated. Not the slow, steady acceleration of normal ships. She went from stationary to combat speed in 2 seconds. She moved like a fighter, not a battleship. Like something alive and hungry. Engineer Jiwoo monitored his readouts, watching power flow through systems humans had spent years perfecting. Reactors at 50% capacity. All systems nominal. She's running smooth, Captain. Bring us into knife fighting range, Day One ordered. Sir? The pilot, Yoonji Song, turned to look at him. She was young, barely 25, but she had reflexes enhanced by neural interfaces. She could fly the Indomitable like an extension of her own body. You heard me. Get close. I want to see their faces when we fire. Unji's hands moved across her controls. The massive battleship dove toward the Vreth cruisers like a hawk on mice. The Vreth ships tried to scatter. Too late. The Indomitable was already among them. Fire, Day One said quietly. Hannah pressed a single button. The Indomitable's main railguns fired. There was no sound in space, but every sensor registered the electromagnetic pulse. Solid tungsten rounds, each weighing a ton, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. The first Vreth cruiser exploded. The railgun round went through its bow, through its reactor, through its engine section, and out the back. The ship came apart like a toy. Hannah didn't stop. Her fingers danced across controls, targeting, firing, moving to the next target. The railguns fired again, and again. The second cruiser tried to dodge. The round caught it mid-turn, splitting it in half. The third cruiser activated emergency shields. The railgun round punched through them like they were paper. The fourth cruiser attempted to retreat. The round caught its engines. The ship tumbled away, dead in space, atmosphere venting from a dozen hull breaches. The fifth cruiser's captain made the mistake of trying to ram the Indomitable. Hannah switched to close-range lasers. The beams cut through the Vreth ship's hull, carving it into pieces. From start to finish, the engagement lasted 43 seconds. The battlefield went silent. Both sides, Coalition and Vreth alike, simply stared. 5 Vreth heavy cruisers, each a proven killer, had been destroyed in less than a minute. By one ship. One human ship on his flagship. War Master Crowther felt something he had not experienced in his long military career. Doubt. All ships, he commanded, his voice harder now, trying to hide his fear. Form defensive sphere. Concentrate all fire on the human vessel. Kill it now. 42 Vreth warships moved into formation. They had been winning. They had been moments away from victory. Now everything had changed. At Arcturus Station, Admiral Taeyang watched his display in disbelief. Dr. Young Mi-han, the station's chief medical officer, had come to the command center to help with casualties. She stood next to Taeyang, staring at the screens. What are they? She asked quietly. The humans. What did they build? I don't know, Taeyang said. But I think we're about to find out. The Indomitable rotated to face the assembled Vreth fleet, alone, outnumbered 42-1. The black ship hung in space, waiting. Inside, Day One looked at his crew. Ready for round 2? They all nodded. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Then let's finish this, Day One said. The Indomitable transmitted on all frequencies. Every ship in the system received the message. Coalition vessels. Vreth warships. Arcturus Station. The voice was Captain Day One Kim, calm as someone ordering coffee. Coalition forces, hold your positions. We'll handle this. On Arcturus Station, someone laughed. It was a hysterical sound born from stress and disbelief. One human ship against 42 Vreth warships. It was suicide. Brave, but suicide. Admiral Taeyang didn't laugh. He had been a military officer for 30 years. He knew confidence when he heard it. Day One wasn't making a brave last stand. He genuinely believed he would win. All ships maintain defensive positions around the station, Taiyan ordered. Let's see what the humans can do. The Vreth fleet finished forming their sphere formation. 42 ships positioned so their weapons could all target the center. They had used this formation to destroy coalition fleets 3 times before. Nothing survived in the middle of that sphere. Nothing could. Human vessel, War Master Krelther transmitted. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick. Continue fighting, and we will hunt down every human in this sector. Day One's response was simple. Come and try. The Vreth opened fire. All 42 ships simultaneously. Plasma cannons, energy beams, kinetic missiles. Everything they had. The space around the Indomitable turned into a storm of destruction. Enough firepower to level a city. Enough to crack a small moon, the Indomitable's shields held. They flared brilliant blue, then seemed to pulse, like a living thing breathing. The energy hitting them didn't just stop. It was absorbed, processed, redirected. Captain, Engineer Jiwoo said, his voice excited. The shields are converting their weapons' energy into power for our systems. We're actually getting stronger. Day One allowed himself a small smile. Then let's use that power. Protocol Reaper. Full activation. Every crew member on the bridge tensed. Protocol Reaper was the Indomitable's true secret. The reason humanity had built this ship in darkness and silence. The weapon that would change galactic warfare forever. Panels along the Indomitable's hull opened. Hundreds of them. From each emerged a small drone fighter, each one the size of a personal vehicle. They poured out like angry insects, spreading into space in a cloud of metal and purpose, but these weren't ordinary drones. Each one carried an artificial intelligence created by human programmers, an AI that could think, adapt, learn, and kill with a speed that biological minds couldn't match. Drone fighters away, Tactical Officer Min Seok Choi reported. He was responsible for coordinating the swarm. His console showed 300 drones, each one a green dot on his display. Targeting solutions locked. Hana, you have overall weapons control, Day One said. Show them why they should have stayed home. Lieutenant Hannah Park's neural implants connected her directly to the ship's combat systems. She could see through every drone's sensors, process data from every weapon, control the entire battle like a chess master moving pieces. But faster. Much faster. The drone swarm hit the Vreth fleet like a tidal wave. They moved in patterns that seemed random but were mathematically perfect. They dodged plasma bolts. They weaved between kinetic missiles. They were everywhere and nowhere. Each drone carried small railguns and laser cutters. Individually, they couldn't destroy a Vreth warship, but they didn't attack individually. They swarmed, dozens converging on a single target, cutting through armor, finding weak points, exploiting them. A Vreth destroyer tried to use its point defense against the drones. The drones simply altered their approach vectors, coming from angles the destroyer's weapons couldn't cover. They carved through its sensor arrays first, blinding it. Then they went for its engines. Another Vreth ship activated emergency shields. The drones analyzed the shield frequency in microseconds, adjusted their weapons output, and punched through. They found the ship's reactor and cut the coolant lines. The reactor overheated and exploded from within. Pilot Yoonji Song flew the Indomitable through the Vreth formation like she was dancing. The massive battleship shouldn't have been able to move like that. Capital ships were slow, ponderous. But the Indomitable responded to Yoonji's thoughts as much as her controls. She made it spin, dive, roll, always moving, never staying still long enough for the Vreth to land a solid hit. Coming up on their command cluster, Yoonji called out. 3 battle cruisers, heavy armor. Main guns, Day One ordered. Full power. The Indomitable's primary railguns charged. These weren't the weapons that had destroyed the first 5 cruisers. These were larger, hungrier. They drew power directly from the ship's main reactor. Enough energy to run a small city. Hannah targeted all 3 battle cruisers simultaneously. Her implants calculated trajectory, compensated for movement, predicted evasion attempts, all in a fraction of a second. Firing. 3 tungsten rounds, each weighing 5 tons, launched at a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance to the Vreth battlecruisers in an eye blink. The first battlecruiser exploded. The round hit its forward magazine, detonating every missile it carried. The ship came apart in a chain reaction of secondary explosions. The second battlecruiser's shields managed to slow the round. Not stop it. Slow it. The round still punched through, tearing a hole 30 meters wide through the entire length of the ship. Atmosphere vented. Crew members were sucked into space. The ship went dark. The third battlecruiser's captain tried to dodge. The round missed its center mass but caught the ship's aft section. The engines exploded and the battlecruiser tumbled away. Crippled, Commander Byung-ho Shin watched the battle display, counting targets. 31 Vreth ships remaining. Multiple vessels crippled. They're breaking formation. He was right. The Vreth sphere was collapsing. Ships were trying to retreat, trying to regroup, trying to survive. The disciplined formation that had destroyed so many coalition fleets was falling apart. "Don't let them escape," Day One said. There was no mercy in his voice. "If even one gets away, they'll report back what happened here. We're not ready for the galaxy to know about us yet." The Indomitable pursued. Yunji pushed the engines past safe limits, chasing down fleeing Vreth ships. The drone swarm adapted, shifting from defensive patterns to hunting mode. They chased down escape pods, destroying them before they could reach hyperspace. Range. Hannah's fingers never stopped. Moving, target, fire, target, fire. Her neural implants were processing so much data that her nose started bleeding. She didn't notice. She was too focused on the kill. A Vreth carrier tried to launch its own fighters. The drones swarmed it before the fighter bay doors fully opened. They flew inside into the carrier's belly and tore it apart from within. 2 Vreth cruisers attempted to combine their shields, linking their defensive systems. The Indomitable fired a sustained laser beam, holding it on target for 3 full seconds. The combined shields held for 2 seconds. Then they collapsed. The laser cut both ships, and half. Engineer Jiwoo called out warnings about power usage, about system stress, about a dozen technical problems. Everyone ignored him. The battle had taken on a momentum of its own. 57 seconds after engaging the main Vreth fleet, it was over. 41 Vreth warships were destroyed or disabled. Debris filled the space around Arcturus Station. Only one ship remained intact. War Master Krelther's flagship hung in space, its weapons offline, its engines dead. The Indomitable had deliberately left it alive, crippling it without destroying it. Day One opened a channel to the Vreth flagship. "Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded, or I'll finish what I started." There was a long silence. Then Krelther's voice came through, defeated. "We surrender." The battlefield fell silent once more. The Indomitable drifted among the wreckage, untouched, pristine. Arcturus Station erupted in celebration. People were crying, laughing, hugging strangers. They had been minutes from death. Now they were alive. The impossible had happened. Admiral Taeyong stood in the command center, staring at his display. The numbers didn't make sense. One human ship had destroyed 41 Vreth warships in less than a minute. His entire fleet, 23 ships, had barely managed to destroy 6 before being overwhelmed. "Sir, the human vessel is requesting permission to dock," his communications officer said. "Granted," Taeyang said quietly. "Give them whatever they need." Commander Byung-ho Shin led the boarding party onto War Master Krelther's flagship. He brought 20 Marines, all wearing powered armor that made them look like walking tanks. But they didn't need the armor. The Vreth crew was broken, defeated, sitting on the floor with their hands visible. Krelther himself stood in the center of his bridge, his forearms hanging limply at his sides. He was tall, even for a Vreth, his skin the color of dark stone. His eyes, all 6 of them, watched the humans approach. "You fight like demons," Krelther said. His voice was tired. "My species has conquered worlds. We have destroyed fleets 10 times our size. But we have never encountered anything like you. Byung-ho removed his helmet. His face was hard, carved from years of war. You shouldn't have come here. You shouldn't have threatened people under our protection. I understand that now, Crowther said. Tell me, human, how many ships like yours do you have? Byung-ho smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. That's classified. The Marines took Crowther and his senior officers into custody. They would be held for interrogation, then eventually exchanged or tried for war crimes. That was a problem for diplomats and lawyers. Byung-ho's job was simpler. Secure the ship, secure the prisoners, move on. Dr. Young Mi-han worked in the medical bay of Arcturus Station, treating wounded coalition soldiers. She was exhausted. She had been working for 18 hours straight ever since the Vreth attack began. But she kept going because people needed her. A Cleth soldier was brought in. His chitinous armor cracked, green blood seeping from wounds. The Cleth were insect-like, with compound eyes and mandibles. Most humans found them disturbing to look at. Young Mi had learned to see past appearances. You're going to be fine, she told the soldier in the Cleth language. She had studied it for 2 years. The wounds look worse than they are. The Cleth clicked his mandibles, a sign of gratitude. The human ship, he said. It saved us. Your people saved us. We're all in this together, Young Mi said, cleaning the wounds. Human Cleth Varani Dolmer. We're allies. But even as she said it, she wondered if that would still be true tomorrow. The humans had just revealed they possessed military power beyond anything the galaxy had seen. That would change things. That would change everything. The Indomitable docked at Arcturus Station 3 hours after the battle. Captain Day 1 walked through the corridors to meet Admiral Tae-young. People lined the halls to see him, to see the human who had saved them. They cheered. They reached out to touch him. Some were crying. Day 1 felt uncomfortable with the attention. He was a soldier, not a hero. He had done what was necessary. That was all. Admiral Tae-young met him in the station's main conference room. The admiral was older, his hair gray, his face lined with stress. He looked at Day 1 like he was seeing a ghost. I have so many questions, Tae-young said. But I think the most important one is simple. Why didn't you tell us? Why did humanity hide this capability? Day 1 sat down. He looked tired. Because we learned from our own history. Earth has seen countless wars. We know what happens when one group has too much power. We know what fear does to people. So you hid your strength? We prepared in secret, Day 1 corrected. The Vreth have been expanding for years. The coalition tried diplomacy, tried sanctions, tried limited military action. Nothing worked. So we built the Indomitable. We built others like her. We waited for the moment when revealing them would do the most good. This wasn't that moment, Tae-young said. You were still testing. You weren't authorized for combat operations. Day 1 met his eyes. 200,000 people were going to die. I made a choice. If my superiors want to court-martial me for it, I'll accept that. But I won't apologize for saving lives. Tae-young was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled, just a little. I'm not going to court-martial you. I'm going to recommend you for the Coalition Star of Valor. What you did here today will echo across the galaxy. He was right. Within hours, news of the battle spread. Faster-than-light communication arrays carried the story to every Coalition world. To every Vreth world. To the neutral systems watching the war, a single human battleship had destroyed a Vreth siege fleet in less than a minute. The video recordings spread like wildfire. Analysts studied every second, trying to understand how it was possible. Military strategists recalculated their entire understanding of naval warfare. The Galactic Coalition Council convened an emergency session. 12 species sat in the Grand Chamber on the capital world of Thesser Prime. They had been allies for 3 centuries, united against common threats. Sharing technology and resources. Now they were frightened. Hive speaker Thrax of the Cleth spoke first. His voice clicked and chittered, translated by computers into words other species could understand. The humans have shown they possess overwhelming military superiority. We must ask ourselves what stops them from turning that power against us. Crystalline elder lumina of the Varani pulsed with orange light, indicating concern. The Varani were silicon-based life forms, living crystals that communicated through bioluminescence. We welcomed humanity into the coalition 15 years ago. They seemed weak, primitive. We offered them protection. Now we learn they did not need our protection. They lied to us. Ambassador Sujin Quan stood to defend her species. She was a small woman, barely over 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the chamber. We did not lie. We simply did not advertise our full capabilities. Every species here has secrets. Every military has classified projects. Humanity is no different. The scale is different, Thrax insisted. One ship defeated a fleet that had destroyed dozens of coalition vessels. How many more ships like the Indomitable do you have? Sujin paused. This was the moment she had been preparing for. The moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. We have 12 battleships either completed or under construction. The Indomitable is the oldest. The others are more advanced. The chamber erupted in noise. Shocked voices, angry voices, fearful voices. Sujin waited for silence. But understand this, she continued. We built these ships for one reason, protection, not conquest. Earth's history is full of wars, of empires that rose and fell through violence. We learned from those mistakes. We learned that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when to fight and when to show mercy. Pretty words, Thrax said. But words are wind. Actions matter. What are humanity's intentions? Sujin smiled. Our intentions are to end this war, to protect our allies, to ensure that species like the Vreth learn that aggression has consequences, and then, when peace comes, to share our technology with the coalition so that we can all be stronger together. The chamber fell silent. That was not what they had expected. 3 weeks after the Battle of Arcturus Station, the Vreth Empire requested a ceasefire. The transmission came through diplomatic channels, formal and carefully worded. But everyone who read it understood the truth. The Vreth were surrendering. Their empress appeared on holographic displays across coalition space. She was ancient, her scales dulled with age, but her eyes were sharp. The Vreth Empire recognizes that continued warfare is not in our interest. We propose immediate cessation of hostilities and negotiation of permanent borders. It was the first time in Vreth history they had ever sued for peace. They had always been the conquerors, never the conquered. But one human battleship had changed everything. Captain Day-One Kim, now Admiral Day-One Kim, stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Empress's speech. His promotion had come through 5 days ago, along with command of humanity's entire battle fleet. He felt the weight of it every moment. What do you think, sir? Lieutenant Hannah Park asked. She had been promoted to captain herself and would soon take command of the Relentless, the second human battleship to enter service. I think they're smart enough to know when they've lost, Day-One said. The Vreth aren't stupid. They're aggressive, but not suicidal. They saw what happened at Arcturus. They know we could bring 12 ships to their homeworld if we wanted. Are we going to accept the ceasefire? That's not my decision, Day-One said. That's for the politicians. I just make sure we're ready if the shooting starts again. But the shooting didn't start again. The Coalition Council voted unanimously to accept the Vreth peace proposal. Negotiations began immediately, held on a neutral station at the border between Coalition and Vreth Space. Ambassador Sujin Quan led the human delegation. She sat across from Vreth, diplomats in a conference room that had been designed to accommodate a dozen different species' environmental needs. The temperature was carefully balanced. The atmosphere was filtered. The chairs were adjustable. The head Vreth negotiator was named Tormak. He was younger than War Master Krelther had been, but his eyes held the same intelligence. You could have destroyed us, he said bluntly. After Arcturus, you could have pushed into our territory, destroyed our fleets, occupied our worlds. Why didn't you? Because that's not who we are, Sujin replied. Humanity has seen enough war. We fought our own species for thousands of years. We learned something from all that bloodshed. Victory in battle isn't the same as victory in war. And victory in war isn't the same as lasting peace. Philosophical, Tormuk said. But what does it mean practically? It means we want to establish borders, open trade, create communication channels. It means we want the Vreth Empire to become a partner instead of an enemy. Not today. Maybe not for years. But eventually, Tormuk studied her. You're very optimistic for a species that just demonstrated it could wipe us out. That's exactly why I can be optimistic, Sujin said. We proved we have the strength. Now we can prove we have the wisdom not to use it unnecessarily. The negotiations took 2 months. The resulting treaty, called the Arcturus Accords, reshaped galactic politics. The Vreth kept their empire but agreed to strict borders. They would not expand. They would not attack coalition worlds. In exchange, trade routes were opened, prisoners were exchanged, and both sides agreed to a 100-year peace, but the Accords did more than end the war. They restructured the coalition itself. Humanity, once the newest and supposedly weakest member, was now acknowledged as the primary military power. With that power came responsibility. Admiral Taeyang Shou visited the Indomitable 1 month after the treaty was signed. He found Admiral Day 1 in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. You know, Taeyang said, standing beside him, I've been thinking about something. For 3 years we fought the Vreth. We lost so many ships, so many people. And we were losing. Slowly but surely they were beating us. I know, Day 1 said quietly. And then you showed up? 1 ship, 1 crew. You did in a minute what we couldn't do in 3 years. I should be grateful. I am grateful. But I'm also a little angry. Day 1 looked at him. Because we could have helped earlier? Yes, how many people died while humanity was building ships in secret? How many coalition soldiers? How many civilians? I don't know the exact number, Day 1 admitted. But I can tell you this. We weren't ready. Not until now. The Indomitable was a prototype. We didn't know if she would work. If we had revealed ourselves too early, if our technology had failed, the Vreth would have adapted. They would have developed countermeasures. We would have lost our advantage. So you waited until the perfect moment? We waited until we were sure, Day 1 corrected. I don't like it either. I don't like that people died while we prepared. But I'd like it even less if we had failed and everyone died. Sometimes you have to make hard choices. Taeyang nodded slowly. You sound like you've thought about this a lot? Every single day, Day 1 said. Engineer Jiwa Lee was appointed the Coalition's Director of Naval Technology. It was a new position, created specifically for him. His job was to share human technology with other Coalition species, helping them upgrade their fleets. He stood in a lecture hall on Thesser Prime, addressing an audience of Coalition engineers. Cleth, Varani, Dulmer, and a dozen other species, all eager to learn humanity's secrets. The key to our weapon systems is miniaturization and efficiency, Duwu explained. Most coalition ships have large reactors that produce moderate power. We develop small reactors that produce enormous power. Most coalition computers process data sequentially. We developed quantum processors that work in parallel. It's not that we're smarter. We just approach the problems differently. A Varani engineer pulsed with green light, indicating a question. Will you share all your technology with us? Most of it, Jiwu said. Some things are still classified. But yes, the goal is to bring the entire Coalition fleet up to human standards. It'll take years, maybe decades. But when we're done, no one will ever threaten us again. Captain Hannah Park took command of the relentless 2 months after the Arcturus Accords were signed. The ceremony was held in orbit around Earth, humanity's homeworld. Every Coalition ambassador attended, along with representatives from the Vreth Empire. Day 1 performed the change of command ceremony himself. Captain Park has served with distinction aboard the Indomitable. She has proven herself in combat, in leadership, and in judgment. I can think of no one better suited to command the Relentless. Hannah stood at attention, accepting the command codes. She had dreamed of this moment since joining the military. But now that it was here, she felt the weight of responsibility. The Relentless was just as powerful as the Indomitable. Maybe more so, with newer systems and upgraded weapons. "I won't let you down, sir," she said. "I know you won't," Day One replied. "Now go show the galaxy what humanity can do." Dr. Young Mihan established the Coalition Medical Exchange Program. It brought together doctors and researchers from every member species, sharing knowledge about biology, medicine, and healing. She worked 18-hour days, coordinating between species with completely different physiology. "The war is over," she told her staff, "but the work of peace is just beginning. We need to understand each other. Not just politically or militarily. We need to understand each other at the most fundamental level. How we live, how we heal, how we survive." War Master Crowther spent 6 months in Coalition custody before being exchanged back to the Vreth Empire. On his last day, Day One visited him in his cell. "You destroyed my fleet," Crowther said. "You humiliated me in front of the galaxy. I should hate you, but you don't," Day One said. "No, I respect you. You're a warrior. You did what warriors do." "You won?" Crowther paused. "Tell me something, human. Your ship, the Indomitable, is she truly the oldest and weakest of your battle fleet?" Day One smiled. "Yes, then the galaxy has changed more than I realized. 5 years after the Battle of Arcturus Station, Admiral Day One Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching a mixed fleet of human and coalition ships patrol the frontier. 12 human battleships flew alongside upgraded coalition vessels. The galaxy was at peace. Not the tense, fragile peace that comes from exhaustion, but real peace built on mutual strength and respect, his console chimed. A message from Earth. His daughter had graduated from the Naval Academy. She was joining the fleet. Day One looked out at the stars. Humanity had proven itself. Not just as warriors, but as leaders, as teachers, as allies. The enemy had lasted barely a minute when the Indomitable entered the war zone. That battle had changed everything, and now the real work of building a better galaxy could begin.